Hello everyone! Today, I'll show you how to sew a beautiful dress step by step. In the description, you'll find a link to the pattern. Don't forget that you can turn on subtitles and translate them into any language. Let's start by preparing all the necessary materials. Choose a floaty material that won't wrinkle too much. I use a blend of viscose and polyester. Prepare an invisible zipper approximately 16 inches long. A piece of standard fusible interfacing. Two small buttons for cuff fastening. Cut out all the pieces from the fabric and fuse the necessary parts with interfacing. A detailed instruction is attached to the pattern. Prepare the front of the dress. Overlock the edges at the center front. Fold the fronts with right sides together and sew along the center. Press the seam open. Attach the sides to the front. When sewing the bust section, note that the piece of fabric belonging to the front should extend beyond the side front. The width of this piece should be the same as the seam allowance, 1/2 inch. Distribute the fabric evenly between the neckline and waist, then sew. Attach the second side and finish the edges. It's good to shorten the bust seam allowances to about 3/8 of an inch. They will fit much better on the bust without creating folds. Press the seams towards the center front. Sew the back of the dress in the same way as the front. First, overlock the edges. Then, sew along the center back seam and press it open. Attach the back sides. Arrange the front and back of the dress with right sides together. Sew and overlock one side of the dress. Mark the place for inserting the invisible zipper on the other side. Start about 1.5 inches from the armhole and continue about 8 inches down from the waist notch. Cut a strip of fusible interfacing the length of the invisible zipper and about 5/8 of an inch wide. Iron the interfacing onto the wrong side at the zipper insertion area. Pin the side of the dress together. Sew the entire side, but sew the zipper area with a loose stitch that can easily be removed later. Secure stitches before and after the zipper placement. Press the seam and remove the stitching from the zipper area. Arrange one part of the zipper. The plastic stopper should be placed slightly below the beginning of the opening. Sew all the way to the end of the zipper opening. Zip up the zipper, then cover the other side of the zipper with the other side of the dress. Pin it at the end of the zipper, at the waist notch, and at the beginning of the zipper. Move the pins to the wrong side of the zipper and unzip it all the way. Sew the second part of the zipper. Secure the zipper ends by sewing them to the seam allowances. If the zipper is too long, simply secure the end and cut off the excess. Now, prepare the back facing. Pin it at the center back and at the shoulders. The facing is shorter than the neckline, which is correct. Sew along the facing so you can easily ease in excess fabric. Unpick a small section of the center front seam. Cut the facing fabric with scissors. Clip the neckline. Understitch the facing by sewing it to the seam allowance of the dress. Press the neckline and finish the facing edge with an overlock stitch or bias tape. Now, prepare the front shoulder. Fold it in half, press, and make a basting stitch along the longer edge, 1/2 inch wide. Make a basting stitch along the neckline as well. Fold these two elements so that, when unfolded, the front shoulder and bust seam align nicely. Attach the other front shoulder. Sew the front facing in the same way as the back facing. After understitching, trim the seam allowances to reduce bulkiness. Press the finished neckline. On the shoulders, make basting stitches. Place the shoulders with right sides together. Pin the edge, then pin the center so that the folds align. The easiest way is to push the pin through both layers at the fold points and secure them together. Start sewing from the edge towards the center. When you reach the center with the needle, clip into the fabric up to the needle. This will allow you to turn the fabric easily and sew the other edge. The back facing is shorter, so do not align it evenly. Trim the corner and turn the shoulder right side out. If this whole process seems too complicated, you can simply place the shoulders with right sides together without unfolding them. Sew through all 4 layers. Finish the seam with an overlock stitch, and it will work fine as well. Repeat for the other shoulder and press. Prepare the bias tape for finishing the slit in the sleeve. The width is up to you. Mine is 1 inch, and after sewing, it's 1/4 of an inch. Attach the bias tape, right side to right side of the sleeve. Arrange the bias tape so the fold is just above the end of the slit. Continue sewing along the folded edge of the bias tape. The seam allowance will gradually decrease as you approach the end of the slit. When you reach this point, turn the bias tape to the other side of the slit and sew in the same way. Fold the bias tape in half, baste it, and sew. Fold the slit in half and sew the corner at about a 45-degree angle. The bias tape on the front of the sleeve should be folded to the wrong side. Now, sew the sleeve and finish the seam with an overlock. Using a long stitch, make 2 parallel stitches to gather the bottom of the sleeve. Pull the bobbin threads to gather the fabric. On one side of the cuff, make a basting stitch half an inch from the edge. Fold the cuff in half with right sides together and sew both edges. End the seam at the basting stitch. Trim the corners, turn the cuff to the right side, and press. Attach the cuff with the side without the basting stitch to the right side of the sleeve. Pin in place, adjusting the gathering as needed. Remove the gathering stitches from the sleeve. Fold the cuff to hide the seam. Use a basting stitch to properly fold the edge. Baste and sew the cuff in place. On the sleeve cap, make 2 rows of stitches to help ease the sleeve into the armhole. Sew the sleeve in place and finish the edge with an overlock. Make buttonholes on the cuffs. The buttonholes should be on the front part of the sleeve and the buttons on the back. Hem the bottom of the dress using your preferred method. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more sewing tutorials. See you next time.